Hey everybody, this is Julie Oliver from Ground Game, Texas. You're watching the Always Gone podcast live from Killeen, Texas, one of my favorite cities in Texas.
Always Gone Live, Season 4. This is episode 36. 36. Season 4. We back with another amazing interview.
Yeah.
We got Young Ma in the building, my co-host.
Young Moolah, baby.
We have Ant, Privilege Life Entertainment.
It's the life, homie.
And myself, Godbody82. And y'all make sure y'all follow us on all social media platforms. We have Ground Games. Am I saying it correctly?
Texas.
Texas.
Yep.
Miss Julie Oliver in the building. So I didn't want to prolong and start messing up. I just want to get straight to
You got it.
Make sure y'all follow us on all social media platforms. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Make sure you like, comment, share the platform with others. Hit the notification button. And make sure you subscribe and get the merch.
All right, we here.
We
Another
here.
one.
Another one.
Miss Julie Oliver, Ground Game, Texas. Can you, if you want to
Yeah.
introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Julie Oliver. I run a nonprofit here in Texas called Ground Game Texas, and we have worked over, the last year and a half to decriminalize marijuana possession in our state. And so far, and we do this through something called the ballot initiative. So you collect signatures, get enough signatures, it goes on the ballot, people get to vote for it. And so far, we're 6 for 6 in our elections, won every election we've done.
Jordan.
In all the cities. So those are, I don't want to knock on wood. Where's the wood? I need to, I don't want to jinx us. I don't want to jinx us.
Always Gone Live.
But,
Jordan. 6 for 6.
6 for 6.
Okay.
6 for 6.
What are the cities?
We started out in Austin, that's where I live, and we wanted to work out the kinks, like what works, what doesn't work, how hard is it to get signatures, how much does it cost to do this work, what's the most effective way of getting signatures, is it like knocking on people's doors, or is it going to public spaces? So Austin is where we started, and then for this past November, about a month ago, we did Killeen-Harker Heights, Elgin, Texas, Denton, and San Marcos.
Elgin too? Okay.
Elgin! Of all places.
I was reading the paper.
I know a couple people from Elgin.
Denton.
Yeah, Denton.
Was one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
What about Dallas and stuff? What's up?
So we'd like to go to Dallas. So Dallas has some weird signature requirements.
Tricky, my boy.
Oh,
It is
okay,
tricky.
It's like that. Oh, okay.
And first of all, I would say in every community in which we go, we want to have partners on the ground there, because it's really tricky work, and you want to make sure that what you're doing is ultimately going to be successful, and you have to have people in the community that buy into this and want this too.
Wow.
And so when we first even came into Killeen, I reached out to Tanika Driver-Moultrie, who's the NAACP president, and I said, hey, we're thinking about doing this in Killeen, and my ties to Killeen are when I ran for Congress. I fell in love with this city, I really did. And she's like, Julie, do this. This would be fabulous here. But it's a huge veterans community. When I canvassed in Killeen, and Coppers Cove was part of my district as well, veterans routinely asked me for 2 things. Hey, can you help me get my disability through the VA? 2, can you legalize marijuana?
Wow.
I can't do the first one because I didn't get elected, but by God, I'm going to do the second one.
Yeah.
Come hell or high water, I'm going to do it. Because, and I'll share something deeply personal. I have a brother who's a veteran who died 4 years ago in June. And he struggled with depression ever since he got out of the military. And one night he made a deadly cocktail of prescription pills and alcohol and put himself to sleep. And so if we did have something like a real medical marijuana program or full legalization, he might be here today. So I'm in it for the long haul, y'all.
Yeah.
And you know what? I like that story. What's his name? I can't think. He has the cannabis viola, the marijuana strain viola. He said he was a basketball player. There you go. Thank you, Aunt. He said the same thing with his. I think his grandmama. Like she couldn't. It hurt for her to see out her eyes. Yeah. And he was like, he kept trying to get her to smoke. She would never smoke. She would never smoke. He said one day, I guess she finally was able to read her Bible. You know what I'm saying? So it was so just smoking marijuana, so that it made her vision clear. Her vision was messed up for a long time, and
it's an incredible remedy for glaucoma, which is the eye problem. for epilepsy. And in fact, there's a man in Texas who's an advocate for legalizing marijuana because he lost his young adult son who he's same thing, I'm not going to smoke, it's illegal, I don't want to get caught. And one day he had a seizure, and that was it. But we know that cannabis is an incredibly effective remedy to epilepsy, cancer pain, PTSD. I mean, almost you name it, there's some remedy that it can help with, right?
Arthritis, for sure.
So it's been my mission. We don't just do cannabis decrim, and I want to be clear, it's not legalization. Legalization still has to come from the state.
Yeah.
But what this means when we do decrim, it means that police can't cite and they can't arrest folks for misdemeanor amounts of possession. And so Class A, Class B, Class C, we also write a provision into the ordinance that says the smell of cannabis can't be used as probable cause for search of a vehicle or a person. And then we also direct cities that they can't pay for THC testing. And there's no case if you can't prove that something is illegal marijuana, and I want to share there's something called legal hemp in the state of Texas, which is low THC concentration marijuana, and then illegal marijuana. You
It's
can't
like
tell.
5%.
Yeah, it's super
0.5,
low.
Yeah, 5 and below or something like that, and anything
And that's
higher
legal.
than that is Reggie, and then
Yeah, and so you can't tell the difference by smell.
No,
There's
you
not even a
can't.
drug smelling dog that can tell the difference
No, they
between
can't.
legal hemp and illegal marijuana. So the only thing that can test it with certainty is a THC test, which are really expensive. So we write into the ordinances that cities won't use any of their budget for THC testing. So if you don't have THC confirmed, you have no case. So we're trying to cover it from all the angles, you know?
I always looked at it like it can't be manufactured. You know, they can manufacture cocaine, they can manufacture heroin, but you can't manufacture THC. You know what I'm saying? It's something that is made in our bodies. You know, it helps us dream. You know what I'm saying? It says
Be
that
creative.
smoking it makes you makes people creative, blocks some
like
dreams.
you
But
wouldn't
the
believe how
ironic-
creative a person is after they smoke weed.
The ironic
Especially
part
if they're
about it
already
is
in the space already
military.
and they're already being creative, and that's just adding on.
Yeah.
And they always call it cannabis, you know. And I also looked at it like Texas was one of the most harshest states with. I mean, the laws was lax, but they locked so many people up for it.
Yeah.
And so, throughout history, the term was always cannabis. But when the Mexicans started running, and then they started Mary Runners, and then it's marijuana, I felt like the connotation of the word is racist in itself.
It is, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's not a true word, marijuana, because nobody's ever called it marijuana. It derives from Mary Runners. So, like, I feel like the whole concept of cannabis being illegal is the term itself. It's a derogatory term. But most people don't get into depth with it like that.
Yeah, into the semantics of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, there are a lot of people when we say even, and well, it's flippant, but what we say is our organization stands for workers, wages, and weed, mainly for alliteration, you know, I like the 3 W's. But, you know, a lot of people are like, that's really, you know, a derogatory term and you shouldn't use it, you should use cannabis. And I was like, well, I need 2 other C words then that can stand for workers and wages.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but, you know, it is interesting because, you know, we did this 4 weeks ago and people got to vote on it. And in Harker Heights, it passed with 64% of the vote. Killeen, 70%.
Yeah.
But Harker Heights City Council went in 2 weeks later and repealed it. Literally took a vote in City Council to repeal it. And so then we had to go collect signatures to what is essentially repeal their repeal. And we did collect enough signatures.
Okay.
We did it in 11 days. It was remarkable. And I'll tell you, you know, I would say 4 weeks ago, this was about decrim. And then the two weeks later, when they pulled that stunt at City Hall and repealed it, it became about democracy because people felt like you literally just stole my vote.
Yeah, that's crazy.
2
though.
city council members weren't even elected in Harker Heights, y'all. they didn't have anybody challenge them, so the city what they do is they call an election. It means if there's nobody who's challenging them, they save money on an election. So 2 city council members that voted to repeal Prop A, we were calling it Prop A because that's what it was on the ballot across the state.
Yeah.
I think except Denton, it was Prop B. 2 of them weren't even elected. And so you had 2 unelected people repealing the vote of 5,200 people. And I tell you what, that really fired up the community in Harker Heights. And they're pissed off. And I think you're going to have a bunch of people run for office who were never considering it before, you know? And that's what you want to see. You want to see, like,
for
people
real.
caring about their communities and being like, yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Because I seen like it was like an 18-year-old who ran for mayor and
He won.
Yeah.
That's
So
true.
we need stuff like that,
Yeah.
like just to change the outlook on that kind of stuff.
Well, there's so much power there too, right? Like, think about the power that the 4 people on the Harker Heights City Council exercised when they took that vote. They stripped everybody of their power to vote, right? Of that vote. So, you really want to affect change. You want power. Most change happens at the local level. And considering that our state has not yet legalized cannabis, except in a very, very, very limited instance of what's called the Texas Compassionate Use Program, which is not a real medical marijuana program. It's not. The people are so much further ahead than politicians on this, in a lot of areas. I mean, we know, abortion rights are insanely popular. We saw red states all over the United States in November vote to make sure that, their electeds were not going to strip them of abortion rights. But you get this crazy fringe minority in power, and they just do really bad things.
It's like these old people. They're not.
We was just saying, wow,
connected
no,
to-
knock on wood. Do we got any wood?
They're
No,
not connected to nothing
we were
that's
just
going
talking
on
about
for
this.
real. They just getting
We were
money.
just talking about this like
They don't
not
know
too
nothing
long
about
ago.
They don't know what's going on.
A lot of older people just out of touch and
But old. I'm talking like 70.
yeah, that's what I'm
why?
saying. Like
Why
out
are we
of
listening
touch
to you?
and
Congress should have an age limit.
you know what
I
I'm saying.
agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Congress should have an age limit
Like,
as a
you're
term.
70 years old telling
The congressman and
20-year-olds
the Supreme Court
Making
justices,
decisions.
they should have
Yeah.
age limits, and it should be a term limit, because you're 90 years old up there
For
dying.
real,
You're
dying.
not telling me nothing that's
Yeah.
important to what my life is.
Right.
You know what
And
I'm
you
saying?
might have like 30 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just
You
like
still
60,
stuck in
65.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
That's
you
it.
still
Get
on.
them out of there. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Next person up.
Yeah.
And we see that staying in a place like the Supreme Court, and no disrespect to RBG, but the fact that she stayed in there when she had an opportunity to retire when there would have been a Democratic Senate, and we could have gotten another, at least not crazy right wing.
Got to run the pension up.
Yeah, it's
That's what they do. Yeah. It's
I had
crazy
a-
to me.
I
And
had
then
another-
pass it down to their kids or something.
I had another question.
mm-hmm.
So, I feel like, throughout the history of cannabis through the world, they found it in the tombs and pyramids. They found them in the pyramids and tombs on this side of the world as well. And it's pretty clear that, people of color have mapped out the cannabis trade throughout the world, except for the new age legalization of cannabis. Will there be, if the bill is ever passed and you guys work on that, will there be a way to make sure that minorities are capable of being farmers and growers
Yeah,
and
the beneficiaries
and sellers? Yeah, because I feel like the Western expansion of that has locked us out of that.
Yeah.
That
Well,
has totally locked us out of the map that we've made for that industry, whether it be legal or illegal or not. So
Okay, so
know.
this is getting into a much bigger discussion because in my personal opinion, we could do the decrim thing. It's still not legalized. It's
Yeah.
not legalizing sales, right?
No.
So there's no opportunity to say, yeah, well, we're going to do something that's equitable for sales because it's still illegal. I do think eventually our state will do a medical marijuana program, and that's where you start getting into the equity of being able to grow and sell and have your own business around this, right? Obviously, full recreational would be even better because then you're talking about real industry in every state that's done it.
Great tax dollars.
It's been a boon to
Yes,
the
it
state
has. Yes,
when
it
it
has.
comes to tax revenue. But what you're seeing in states across the country is that there is a lockout of business owners of color
Mhm.
because of the high license,
Entry
like
level.
thresholds. Yeah, the
Yeah.
entry.
It's like one of them was like $25,000 application fee.
Yeah.
Just the application
So if
fee,
you can be turned down, so that's $25,000 wasted. Like that's insane,
You can't lose.
insane.
So
You have to know a botanist for so many years that works on your farm. You have to know a curer. It's like so many different laws and so many different people that you have connected into the farm and into the business. You have to send it out. I just recently learned it's like $400, like $400 to $500 per test per strand.
Yeah.
So that
Make sure it's good.
make sure it's good to grow in the cell. Like that's insane. Like, you know,
For somebody just starting out.
yeah,
for sure.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Yeah.
you're not just gonna start out. Oh, let me just grow one strand.
Yeah.
You're gonna, you're gonna grow out with a couple.
well, and so this, goes to like who's in the state legislature when we actually do turn to legalization. And I do think that Republicans, if they see the writing is on the wall. Some of them definitely are like already there and like, yeah, we should be legalizing
They want the
this.
paper. It's great for the money.
Yeah. And then there are holdouts like Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor who presides over the Senate, so no legislation can get voted on without his approval.
He will be holding that up on purpose.
Yeah, he holds it up on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
He's completely against it. So.
I hold it up on purpose.
And we had an opportunity to vote him out in November, and he is back in. So if we really want to legalize marijuana, we have to vote him out in 4 years. You literally have to vote Dan Patrick out in 4 years because he will always.
Hey man, listen, this always gone live, man. So y'all need to turn up, stop playing, follow us on all social media platforms. The podcast is rocking, popping like no other. You know we gonna stay with the weed. You know we gonna stay with the dope content. Guy Body 82, Young Mott, DJ Dom _money. Y'all already know what time it is, man. Follow us on all social media platforms. Like, subscribe, comment, follow, hit the notification button. Felon, and it's not a drug charge, not a weed charge. So it's your first offense. How would this benefit for us first time felons? And we got jobs, we work, we pay bills like everybody else, so we need to smoke like everybody else too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to pay for no therapist. I just rather just smoke.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell nobody my business. Let me just spend that money and go smoke.
Or maybe do both.
That's another thing.
I don't know.
No, you not.
I mean, you know what? I've actually thought about therapy. I don't know, man, because I was seeing Soprano show, so I was
Unpack a lot.
Dr.
maybe
Melfi.
repack.
Dr. Melfi.
just be cool.
So what
just telling somebody,
Yeah.
man, that's the only thing.
So
So I don't. That's,
also within the legalization of cannabis, would they work in there the legalization of psychedelics within like mushrooms and things of that nature?
Thank you.
Was
Man, we
some-
think the
I
think
same,
there was-
boy.
I think there was some bill that was introduced, I should say, in the last legislative session on psychedelics.
Okay.
I don't think it went anywhere again in the
Yeah.
Senate because you've got the Senate is way more conservative than the House, but you've got, as long as Dan Patrick is
Hating.
in his seat.
Big hater.
And
Old
I think
hater.
a lot of
We
people
on
think like the
your butt,
lieutenant
Dan.
governor is just like the vice governor. He's not. He's the guy who, if you want something to pass the House and the Senate, you have to go through Dan Patrick because if you don't, it doesn't go to the Senate floor for a vote,
Mhm.
and that means it's killed.
so
And
we
you've got to
so,
have both
so
houses
we waiting
voting.
on him. So he pretty much being
He holds.
A
He
jerk.
holds.
he must be a June Gemini. Oh,
Are
nah, I
there-
just play. I was just playing.
To get more in depth with, are there any cannabis lobbyists in Texas, like real life lobbyists, or is it just like
I think
just
it's
a
still-
ground level?
It's still a very young industry in our
Okay.
state, but you do have people who go to the legislature every year and have for a while to advocate for legalization.
Okay.
You've got some folks like the Veterans for Medical Marijuana.
Yeah.
They are at the state ledge every other year, and at least they want a real medical marijuana program. And I do think that
And
we
it's-
will get there first. I don't know if it'll be in 2023. It might be 2025.
Okay.
But I think we will get there.
I don't want to incriminate some people or myself that I know, but
Man, me and you, man.
I have a
I'll
lot
beat
of
both of y'all
friends.
to the punch anyway.
I have a lot of friends that
No.
were in the military. I was in the military myself, but I have a lot of friends who actually went to war. You know what I'm saying? Seen some crazy things,
I see.
and they always tell me that the marijuana, I mean, the cannabis was more. It worked more for them than the pills, and that when they would go back and they would get their levels from the doctors, that they would kind of pull them back off the pills anyway. It's like the doctors at the VA are like, you know, we would rather you self-medicate
Yeah.
and take the pills, because the pills are dangerous. They're really, really dangerous.
And that's what goes back to like when I was talking to veterans when I was running, they wanted legalization because they said, I need an alternative to the pills that the VA is pushing. And I've talked to veterans who've moved back to Killeen who lived in other states that actually had like, well, one guy moved back from New Mexico, so they have full recreational there.
Yeah.
He was like, I was on the perfect formulation for my PTSD. He's like, absolutely perfect. I felt great. And he said, and I moved back to Texas, and one, I'm scared to, buy something because I am fearful of the legal consequences. And he's like, I'm on 4 antidepressants now. And he goes, and I feel awful.
Wow.
Mhm.
And I wish I could say that was just one guy I talked to, but I mean, I
It's a
feel
lot
like
of-
every veteran I
a
talk
lot of
to
them.
who have actually been the beneficiaries of a real medical marijuana program, they come back here and they're like, this is awful. This is awful.
It's a lot of them. It's like it rips them apart. Like the pills are
It
just
messes with your
too
brain,
dangerous.
man.
Yeah, it messes with your brain, your liver, kidneys, all this stuff. Bro.
Yeah.
It's too
I didn't
much.
think about that.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're already unstable. Then they put you on some medicine that makes you more unstable. And
Well,
it's like
and-
there's no consequences to it.
If they want to do something for a veteran, you really want to thank a veteran? Legalize marijuana. Legalize it.
And then, you know what? Can we get that in a
Always
little?
gone for
Can we get that in a little clip?
veteran
What she just said. You make sure
legalization.
you clip this as the
This the
title.
clip.
Man,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Because they're
But-
our parents are veterans, you know.
Yeah,
so,
for real.
you
And we know it's. I
understand.
mean, we all know better. I mean, being from
Yeah.
here, you.
Right.
You know,
Everybody. You're like
you know.
one
And you-
touch away from a veteran.
Yeah.
You know when your parents start acting different, you can see it.
Yeah,
You know, like it's
I
you
got
know,
it.
there's nothing
Yeah.
you could do,
No, I
but you
can't
can
do
see it. You know, like even your friends, you know, they know,
Yeah.
they see it, or you can
Yeah.
see it within your
Yeah.
friends' parents. You know, it's a community, but it's a big community out here. With the state, period, you know, it's a huge veteran
For real.
presence.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, Fort Hood is the largest military installation
in
in
the
the world. So
Craig. Not just
you
the
do
city.
have a lot of you have a lot of folks who retired here when
So
they're done.
I also say, so since we're talking about veterans, I'm a veteran. I love guns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so in other states, when you get in other states when you get your license to carry,
Uh-huh.
you can't have a license to carry and a medical marijuana card at the same time.
Really?
Yes, so I find that to be interesting, you know, to an extent.
No, I know what you're saying.
You know, like you can give these people, you know, what I'm saying, Xanax and Zoloft
Right.
and all this other stuff.
Or a bottle of scotch.
Yeah, you know, but I can't smoke and legally I can't have a medical marijuana
Yeah.
card and a
That's bizarre.
gun license
Because
card.
I
at the
keep
same
thinking
time.
like alcohol and guns are a really
That's
deadly
psycho.
combination.
That's crazy.
But I don't have it all, and I'm certainly have never studied this,
Mhm.
but I don't have the same reaction when you say medical marijuana. And I mean, you know, obviously we don't even have concealed carry anymore. I mean, it's open carry, right?
Open carry. Cowboy
carry.
time now.
Yeah. So you don't have to have a license in this state anymore. So
Well, you never really had to, because once you leave your house more than 3 counties out, your car becomes your castle,
yeah.
and this is a castle state, so.
Yeah.
You know, and Texas is huge. So if you leave your house, period, you're probably like 3 counties outside your home.
Do they have medical marijuana cards in Texas?
No.
No, they don't. But she has the compassionate thing though.
Yeah,
like if
Texas
something-
compassionate use.
Yeah.
They call it teacup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if you got like pancreatic cancer, stuff like that.
It's a very narrow, range of ailments that it can be used for. So epilepsy is one. Cancer. They used to only allow it for terminal cancer. Now it's any cancer. They expanded it to include PTSD, glaucoma is one of them, but it's very, very limited in what it can be used for. And then the concentrations are very limited too. So if a doctor wanted to put you on a higher concentration of THC, he's limited by state law, he can't. And then it's expensive. There's only a fraction of the people who qualify for T-Cup in Texas that are actually taking advantage of the program because it's expensive. And there aren't that many, I think, T-Cup providers either. I mean, like, the doctors
like
are
15.
Yeah.
It's like the the little stamp on cigarettes. If you ever smoke cigarettes, on the cigarette box, it's a stamp on the bottom of the cigarettes for tobacco sales. They give out those stamps for cannabis too in the state, but only it's a limited amount of people that get them. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know that little stamp? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's a limited amount of people that get them. You know what I mean? You got to be plugged in.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So all these valid points that we're pretty much making of why, you know what I'm saying, should, you know what I'm saying, we should have weed, have marijuana. The guy that signed all the paper that we were talking about, he's aware of these. He's aware of these. You know what I'm saying? What pretty much what we're saying.
Yeah.
But it's just like, what? Like he just doesn't, or it's like he's stalling, or he doesn't.
So, in my opinion,
He's
I think
disregarding.
I think he definitely.
He comes from the reefer madness generation.
He comes from. There really is a.
It's a reefer
older-
madness generation.
But before the 70s,
They
probably.
seen that movie.
Yeah, they seen that. That's their
So,
scared straight. You
He
know
don't
what I'm
have
saying?
anybody in his family that he can leave.
Yeah.
I
Of course he
understand.
does.
He probably smoked. Yeah, kids smoke.
does.
He probably
He
smokes.
probably has kids smoke.
Yeah.
But
Or he take a whole bunch of pills.
The
Big
reality
dope.
is-
Yeah.
he's going to do whatever his donors want him to do,
Exactly.
right? Or whatever his extreme base that gets him reelected
The
in the
church.
primary wants him to do. So
The
you've
church
got the
and the
church
money.
people and the money. And like law enforcement doesn't want this.
Mhm.
Private prisons don't want this. They make a lot of money from locking up folks for even misdemeanor,
Cannabis.
cannabis possession.
3 times, you out.
Yeah, and so you think about it. There's big money behind this. I always
Wow.
say, the pharmaceutical industry probably doesn't want this because
Oh, no.
think about how easy it is to
Yeah.
grow your own plant and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And
Herbs.
they would much rather, like you said, it can't be chemically formulated in a lab. It's natural, right?
Mhm.
So you've got big moneyed interests that don't want things to change, and I think he is listening to that. And the more that the cannabis industry can start being that and having that kind of political power and that political weight, he'll change, or he'll get voted out, and somebody will get put in who's put money behind somebody who's got the cannabis industry in mind for Texas, and it will be a huge boon. But again, we need to make sure it's equitable. And if we just keep putting
And
Republicans
equal.
in office, and I'm not saying all Democrats are good, there are some shitty Democrats,
Yeah.
but
It's a lot of.
there's a lot more, at least there will be a lot more conversation around creating an equitable structure for businesses in Texas. You're not going to have that at all on the Republican side. It's just not going to be, they're just going to write the licenses to their friends in the country club, and it's going to be a white dominated industry.
Say, hey,
Yeah,
I'm glad.
yes, it
Thank
is.
you.
It's most
You know,
definitely.
You know,
Also, the money situation, like those guys out there haven't been able to put the money in the banks. Like
Right.
that's gonna be wild in Texas. Like that's a
what you mean?
sticky situation. Like you can't deposit
Yeah.
Weed
cannabis sales in the banks.
So
what
you have to
hopefully
hold-
the federal
Huh?
government will take advantage.
They have like a safe house,
Yeah,
and so
because it's
it's
still
a sa-
Schedule 1
like you-
at
like
the federal
basically,
level.
yeah.
Banks won't take money from
Yeah,
the
they
industry,
won't take
even in
that
states
money.
that have legalized it.
Yeah. So they got a safe house. They got like old Navy SEAL guys. They pull up, boom,
Burner?
jump out the car. Yeah, they jump out the car, suitcase, the money, the deposit for the day, bank deposit, boom, car bulletproof. They pull
Isn't
off,
that crazy?
and they have to do it like that because they can't go to the bank with
But the
it.
safe is like
Somewhere.
in the house
Yeah,
or
it's
something like
somewhere.
that?
Yeah, it's somewhere.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because they can't. It's a lot of money, bro.
When we first started doing this work for Ground Game, I had an attorney call me from Dallas, and he said he represents clients who are legal growers who come into Texas, and because they're unbanked, they all have cash on them. They will never have product on them. He goes, they're not stupid enough. They would lose their licenses if they had product on them, but they will always have cash on them.
Big money.
And the cops, they get pulled over, they see a bag, I want to see what's inside the bag.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just represent clients getting their money back. But he gave me an example. One guy was driving a Range Rover. He was Latino. Cop pulled him over. Nothing in the car. He saw a Louis Vuitton bag on the front seat of his Range Rover and did a search of the car. $60,000 of cash. They seized it, and he had to hire an attorney to get his money back. And that's what I'm talking about. They used marijuana as an excuse. If marijuana is a gateway, it's only a gateway to allow cops to search a vehicle.
Yeah.
That's the real deal.
Yeah.
You want to talk about gateway drugs, it's OxyContin that pharmaceutical companies push. But cannabis is not a gateway drug. It is a gateway for cops to use it as an excuse to search and then take assets away from folks.
Yeah,
I got
'cause
one more good question.
anything after smoking marijuana, you on your own. Sorry, I can't help you with
Go
any
ahead.
of that.
No, I was just gonna say, like, has anybody like ever like done anything tripping on marijuana? I don't know.
Not
I
until
mean, I'm pretty
recently.
sure that was in their system.
Yeah, those people was tripping. They
That's
don't
not
even
the
OD.
That's not
But
the
people
reason.
going to the hospital is giving it OD status now. But it's not. You can't OD. You,
can't.
have
Wait,
to.
for real? I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
you have to smoke your body weight to OD.
Yeah.
First of all, you're gonna eat yourself to sleep, or you're gonna go to
exactly.
sleep before you ever smoke your body weight to OD. But some little kid did get a hold of some gummies and
Okay,
passed
I mean,
away.
yeah.
Nah, stuff like that. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I
that's
can see
insane.
that. Yeah.
I'm like,
I got one more good question. So, besides, I read deep. I study a couple things. But so, do you think that the war on drugs heightened everything else with the marijuana? And by that I mean like the actual COINTELPRO network of bringing in the cannabis and the cocaine and everything into the neighborhoods.
Well, yeah, we know the war on drugs
Yeah,
has been a
yeah.
completely failed effort in the United States. And honestly, if I had my druthers and if I had one, I would have advocated for we need to have safe houses. We need to have there should be no war on drugs. But yeah, you want to kill the cartel industry? Legalize drugs, y'all.
pretty
And make
much.
it and put age restrictions, just like alcohol and cigarettes.
Yeah.
There are age restrictions.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean obviously the kids aren't going to get a hold of it.
Mhm.
We'll do our best to keep kids away from it,
Mhm.
just like we do with alcohol and cigarettes.
Mhm.
But the reality is, if you really want to dismantle the cartel industry in the United States, legalize it. Everything.
But they'll never do. That would cut off their money.
So wait,
They would cut off the money.
They would cut off their money. They got to fund
they
these wars.
pie is big. They ain't even
Yeah.
trying to cut down they
But
pie.
that goes back
And,
to the old people being in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say,
Schools up
I always
out
say
there.
that the crack babies that the CIA created had to
Yeah.
end up fighting the wars for them over again 30 years later.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
real,
You know what I'm
reality
saying?
is, a
And
lot of people want to start.
People don't look at it like that.
Too.
You know what I'm saying? I tell them all the time, the CIA created crack babies,
Yes,
and
they
then
did.
those crack babies was born, and then they had to go fight in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yes, they did.
You know what I'm
And,
saying? To
you
fight
know-
the same people that they was turned into crack babies and messed up their neighborhoods and stuff. You had to go fight because that's who the people they gave the money and the guns to.
Well,
From
and,
the crack that you bought in your neighborhood.
and if the reality is,
It's twisted.
we-
It's crazy. It's
we-
crazy.
we treat addiction as a criminal offense rather than a
Yeah.
healthcare issue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge difference than the way other countries view addiction. It's not a criminalized behavior. in
Because
other
it was,
countries.
I think.
What's good? This your boy, Young Moolah, baby. And this is another episode of Always Gone Live, man. I appreciate you for watching this episode and getting to this point right here. This is a great episode with Julie Oliver from Ground Game, Texas. She is helping to decriminalize marijuana in the state of Texas, which we all need to be, cheers for that. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm going to show you right here, Julie's website for groundgametexas.org. Y'all go check that out, man. Y'all donate if you can, help out, man. If you helping them out, you helping us out. This channel's here for them. We supporting Ground Game Texas. We here, you know how we do. We getting gassed up all the time. So yeah, man, just subscribe, man, to the channel. More episodes coming, more interviews. Here we go for the rest of the interview.
To the kids, you know the schools.
Take 'em
are
on
going-
trips and stuff like
Get them
that,
out of the
like-
neighborhoods.
I mean, Colorado is fully funded education, public education there. They have fabulous schools in Colorado from the tax revenue. And we are so severely underfunded when it comes to school. I
What
was
happened
like, you know why young people should care about voting? Especially if you're 18 and a senior? Because it's
Listen.
your school board that set your budget for dance or band or football or you name it. They're over your budget. And you could have somebody say, we're going to cut this program, and the thing that you love most about school could be gone. So I want kids to care about voting and getting excited to vote when they're 18, because that's how close it is. And that's what I think a lot of folks don't realize. Like, wow, I didn't know they could take away my dance program or my art program or, you know.
They know.
Yeah,
And they'll
and they
pop-
will.
they'll
I was
pocket
about to
that
say the
money.
inner city
Pretty
schools
much.
know. You go to school one day and your program is gone.
Right.
Nothing tomorrow. You know, it's in, you know, I've seen a different type of school system. I come from a small town in Georgia, so, you know, I've seen this and come out here, so I've seen this. So it's definitely different.
I mean, Texas has really, really, I mean, it's so unfortunate. And I think it's by design. I think, you know, the people who are in power in the state could fund public education fully, and they choose not to. And it's by design because they want to, you know, basically take property tax dollars and give it to private schools.
I don't think we should be paying taxes. We're the fourth largest.
No way.
Is that
Texas
what they
is the
was
fourth. Yeah, Texas is the fourth
Listen,
largest producer of
I'm
oil
gonna
in the
say this to
world.
you.
Texas.
I've actually had this conversation with them about like Texas, this being the fourth largest state, and just like economy wise, like just it lacks. And I'm not talking down on the state.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like it just certain things. It just lacks
Yeah,
certain things
right.
here. I mean, it's like that everywhere, but I'm just saying we're just speaking on here. This like the state is,
Because they
Listen,
bury the money.
you know what I'm saying?
You got to
Like,
think about the billions lost in Enron, and then think about we're the fourth largest producer of oil in the in the world. In the world.
I get that.
So
I
all those
understand that
countries
shit, but-
that's top three, they pay for everything, even though they create these people to be terrorists and warmongers and all this stuff. But their citizens don't pay for too much of nothing. You know what I'm saying? Education is free, healthcare is free in those countries.
Well, you can even look at a place like Norway that also has a huge oil.
Facts.
And I have to be honest, Al, I think we have to get off oil because we're killing our planet
We are.
doing that. So eventually we have to get off of that. We have to figure out, and I would love to see Killeen become like the renewable capital of Texas
Oh,
because
okay.
there's so much, you know,
Come on,
there's
electric
a,
cars.
do y'all probably know this, that Fort Hood is the greenest
Mhm.
and when it comes to all military installations.
I lived here since 91, and we've recycled. You got fined if you didn't recycle.
Yeah. And they've got solar
you had to
installations,
recycle,
and
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, take that out of Fort Hood, create industry here for the
Mhm.
renewable, and then connect it to the power
Killeen
lines.
didn't work out a good deal with Fort Hood when they made the deal. I don't think that Fort Hood. I think that they take the money from
Killeen.
overcharging the military kids to go to KISD and don't do anything with it, and the city doesn't get any.
Yeah.
The city didn't work out a deal. Like as Fort Hood grows, the city grows.
I hear
You know
a
what I
future
mean?
city council.
I just
member,
saw
right?
Harker Heights, my
always
boy.
going live. Listen,
Wait,
stop
you in
playing.
Harker Heights?
Huh?
Are
Oh,
you in
yeah.
Harker
No, I
Heights?
live in
okay.
Killeen,
I was gonna say.
but-
Oh, he gotta live in Harker Heights too.
No,
No.
but Killeen?
Yeah.
Killeen also
And
includes-
stop playing. You're calling. So it's a calling you. You're calling. It's a
Well,
calling.
he got the information.
You've
Yeah,
heard this
he's-
before, I
he's-
guess.
Mm,
he's-
yeah, I have.
You need
very-
to run.
I've done a couple speeches at a couple rallies.
Oh yeah.
You need to run.
Oh, hey, there you go, right
I'll
there.
bring you to
That's
Austin. We'll do a fundraiser for you.
All right,
Okay.
all right, I'll come.
Wow, listen, y'all heard it first.
What we
Listen,
doing? What we watching?
listen,
What we
y'all
What we watching?
Y'all
What we watching?
always go live, and y'all heard that first. Julia Oliver, and man, your callers are calling. Doggone it.
You know, it's I just felt like they never made a good deal with the military. You know, because like you have to think about it. Killeen was the largest, well, the first $1 million Walmart, $1 million a day Walmart. It was the largest Walmart, first $1
The
million
old
day.
Walmart?
No,
the Hobby Lobby. Oh, this
yeah,
one
they're
right
just
here.
right, the big
Okay,
one that
okay.
the main one.
Tremere. Lowe's.
Speaking of Walmart,
That was the first $1 million Walmart ever a day, and the biggest Walmart at one point. And then the McDonald's on Fort Hood Street was the number one McDonald's in the world.
Wow.
In the world with the Walmart. So you got number one Walmart, you got number one McDonald's, and then you got there's like a couple of other businesses in here that's number one in the world because there's Fort Hood, it's a revolving door.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
APS,
So
APs,
yeah, just because of the base, it's a
Yeah,
revolving
yeah,
door.
yeah.
Soldiers
I
never
know,
stop.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Enlistment is always open.
Yes,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? So it's a revolving door. People that come, new people, with
Commissary,
money.
the
Yeah,
commissary,
money.
the
Even like
commissary.
selling
Everybody's
cars.
shopping at the commissary.
You know, even when I sold cars, you're selling like 400 or 500 cars a month just in Killeen out of that one car lot. You know what I mean? Like that's a lot of
Wow.
money.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
commerce that's moving moves out of there. They sold that car lot for almost $1 billion in Killeen. They don't talk about you know.
It was like
They don't talk that big money. You know what I'm saying? They act like it ain't big money here, and there's a lot of big money here. But it's, I don't know. I feel like you know, it's the way they're doing the city too. You know, like they blue zone us. They killing us, and then they blue zone us for the food desert.
Okay,
but the blue zoning for the criminalization. So the zones in Killeen, they got zones on a map that's blue, and then you got different colors. But the blue zone Rancier, where we at right now, a couple of other places down the way, they could just pull you over. They're pretty much, you do anything wrong, they pulling you over and they run in the car. You know what I'm saying? They looking for drugs, they looking for everything. So, you know, just don't like certain this side too, for real. But you know, a couple other neighborhoods. You know the neighborhoods on the other side. But it's certain zones and places where they blue light it. They pull you over, boom, they got you.
Interesting.
They, you know, that's, again, part of the reason we wanted to limit interaction between law enforcement and people by saying smell can't be used and, you know, but somebody, I guess there was a city council member who had talked to law enforcement and he said that if they want to search your, they'll figure out a way to search
Yeah, they're going to figure out a way.
They'll figure out a way.
Because you're scared. You're in hiding, you're scared.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what's going on. They'll trick you.
Again, if it's just simple possession, cops should be looking at other things. They should be investigating other things that, like, you know.
We know the shootings, all the murders that be happening up in this thing. Like, come on,
weed should be the last thing they need to be worried about. That needs to be that. As much other stuff is going on here.
They still ain't found the shooter at the mall.
Yeah, the mall shooter.
They still ain't found that dude. Like, you just go to the mall, shoot 10, 12 times, and never get caught.
They ain't found that dude that killed the black guy at the Valero across from Ellison.
Like,
he looked like the dude from the mall.
And that's where they be sitting at. They be over there.
It looked like the same dude.
Oh my God.
He just walked in there and shot him in the back of the head in the
serial
store.
Killer, it sounds like here.
But,
we be all
probably
more than one.
Probably more than one.
Jeez. But again, it's a waste of resources to pull over people and harass them for simple possession.
Because then you get that
It's
money.
you
get them in the system.
That's what it is.
So they'll at least get 1 year of probation out of you, and you'll default on that.
It's crazy.
Mess you up, get back.
I think San Antonio did a study, and it cost them so much more money. Like the county, it cost the county because that's where people get
Bexar
booked.
County.
They get the bookings are so expensive for the county on simple possession that they did make an internal policy that we're not going to book people and we're not going to arrest people. We'll give them a citation, but we're not going to arrest.
I was living down there, and it was like the most. That was the first time I had ever been like harassed by cops. So I'm driving down, and they pulled me over, and they just throw me on the hood of the car, like for real. They didn't do nothing. They just pulled me out the car, throw me on the hood of the car, and they look in the car. I had my best friend's sister. We had just got some Popeyes, and they was like, man, y'all to go ahead and go home and have a nice meal. And they just did me like San Antonio was wild. Them cops are wild down there. Like, you know, it's so many different stories from friends I have down there. It's crazy. It's different, totally different than Killeen.
So we're doing the same thing in San Antonio right now. We're collecting signatures, and it's a number of things. So it's not just decriminalizing; it's decriminalizing abortion, which still abortions probably are not going to be done in our state because of SB 8 and Roe v. Wade getting overturned. But then also banning chokeholds, banning no-knock warrants, and for anything that's not. For anything that's a misdemeanor that's not cannabis possession misdemeanor, which we say no citations, no arrests at all. But for anything else that's a misdemeanor, citation, no arrest. So it's called cite and release. And that's honestly, it's helpful to immigrant communities that are might not be here documented, but if they get arrested, there's a state law that requires police departments and sheriff's departments to call in ICE, and it's so sad. So you could have some guy who's just like a roofer somewhere and get arrested, and then
because in San Antonio that ICE is crazy. If you ever wanted to see
his family again,
you ever wanted to see like the ICE van pull up and people just start running, bro, like San Antonio was wild. I worked on the railroad when I first got out the Air Force, and they were bringing in all the new cars that was being built in Mexico, and they was bringing them up to San Antonio, and we'd unload them off the trains. And on some of the trains, the immigrants would be hiding in the cars. They worked at the factory. So on that day, they would bring their bag, hide in one of the cars, They would drive that car on the train and they would stay in the cars until they got to America.
Yeah.
We open the doors, they jump out,
Yeah.
run, and you'd be like, you know, ICE driving around trying to pick people up and stuff. It's like, yo, this is crazy.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
This is insane. Like, I never experienced it like that.
I got
Yeah.
one more question for
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Are y'all working on trying to get the minimum wage raise
Well,
here
that's-
if like the 9 to 5 job workers?
We haven't done it here
Preach.
in Killeen. We did it in South Texas. But this is something we could do now with a caveat. So Texas said that no city can force a citywide minimum wage increase.
Yeah.
But you can do a ballot initiative for city employees, and typically, if the city is paying a minimum wage of, let's say, $15 an hour, that's going to help lift the wages of everybody else because everybody's going to want to work for the city, and that means businesses are going to have a shortage of labor, and they're going to have to meet what. So we've done it actually in one city in South Texas. The city council actually adopted it. They didn't even put it on the ballot; they just adopted it.
Wow.
And in another one, we're actually suing the city secretary who said, you know, she's had some bogus reason for not certifying the signatures, so we're in litigation. But we feel fairly confident we're going to win that, and then we'll go back to the city and finish it. But that is absolutely something we could do in Killeen-Harker Heights.
All right, Always Gone Live, Season 4, Episode 36. We have Miss Julie, Oliver, and Young myself, Guy Body 82. Y'all make sure y'all like, comment, share the platform, hit the notification button, and subscribe. Get the merch. Like we said, thank you for coming out. We appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come.